Welcome to Doko K-Men, and you all know Doko loves anime. And if you like anime, then Doko loves you too. The story starts with the view of a youthful boy who demonstrates that he doesn't have much time to waste. We can see that he's nothing more than an ordinary guy who became famous because of some random occurrence. A mid-level job right after school, but his manager makes self-serving decisions. And he will be at the station fighting against the closing doors. Finally, he pushes in and gets on with the train just as it starts moving. Finally, he glances up and watches as it is 1 minute to 9, but Pei rushes through and somehow he gets to the exam hall in the last minute. Therefore, he manages to be present by the time the morning goes by. And Pei starts weighing between buns, anorexia, and the 50% discounts in hopes of rationally navigating all their different offers. Got a well-dressed outfit for the job, will be looking good since he's broke. Then he is off to eat lunch, and after which he starts playing a game to decompress when he recognizes that he should be watching his step. Manager changed tab immediately. He moves to another screen, which the boss is watching right behind him, but doesn't notice anything. Lucky that he keeps earning with his game, yet his boss never lets him rest. She is toiling away, catching up to him. I'm going to surprise him at 6 p.m. when Pei is just about to log off, finish working, and go home. As fast as he can, but he is also stalled by the boss. His manager demands for a cop little of which of his presentation is, but Pei noted this. The time is about 1 week off. He told him that manager was not going to get it today. Telling his boss off. His boss tells him he loses his job, but that doesn't matter for him. Having seen the change, it is evident that he will never forget the boss after the accident claiming lawsuits, but it is his mind game that he consents. Work late into the night trying to create that presentation. We notice Pei tirelessly working until he's the only one in the office. While the rest of them had gone home a long time ago under the weak office lamp. Learns that his girlfriend just broke up with him, and now he has received a message. He notices that he received a quiz from his friend, which was aiming at predicting his future. However, he tried it anyway. Will drop the phone into the trash, and as he tries to pick it up, the screen can be seen that reads the story of your fortune will be revealed. Suddenly, there is voice from that says the fortune conversion function will start. A blizzard of light shines into his face from the phone. And the magical rain bombards, the note and the talismans flying all around him. He is pulled from the ground and flies into his net, which drops everything that he catches. He disappears. Therefore, he gets woke up by his friend Yang, who waved his hand and reminded him about the dean's session. Hence, his attendance would take precedence over the others. Except leaving those behind, he insensible for a moment until waking up and hearing his roommates who are leaving. Pei realizes he's in his old student room, and he's gone back to the time he's been a first-year student. These questions come to his mind. What is happening? Always, Hamida promised to himself every morning that he would attend the dean's class, yet he also knew that Dean never counted attendance in his class when he was there. Teaching staff pretending to be friendly, telling me not to worry about attendance, yet several days before the end of term, someone else got a scholarship instead. Didn't attend. He ponders how to get back to his days, but it dawns on him that his life has changed, and not only that, he has a chance to correct that. He's not into a typical, boring job after all. He is hurtling towards the floor, but the activation of his fortune conversion system saves him. System starts talking and identifies itself. System also lets Richie know that it will give him some financial resources, which are called a startup fund. Help him get rich. He got 5 okay to start with, so the first thing he thinks of are what's to be bought. Richie carries on by saying that System will give him money at some equal intervals that he can use on the company, and he gets paid out of his gratitude to his employer only. Profit for loss ratio, he can get nutrition from this. Yin here stands for wealth, and Yang here stands for banking on getting rich. Both take noises about them as an only interest. Although his efforts are actually paying off, his profit to loss conversion rate is not as straightforward as he expected, as the losses ratio was more than the profit. Borrow so to save a penny on a gallon of your fictitious petrol loan, you are already winning big. He dreams about dropping out of high school thinking that it will be comical to fail math just as it did for him every time. Hence, he thanks God for such happiness. It is a spiritual approach to life that is suitable for all. Richie next tells him about how to file a company, which feels like a puzzle piece to him. Sort of area he should go into with an ultimate idea about avoiding instructions, but Richie speaks a lot about rules available on construction territory. Conflicts, but still he is recognized he should be a legitimate company. And he demands a little time to ponder about his drawback and look for a missing crucial part within himself. Suggestions: the accomplished entrepreneur believes that the moment he starts his mobile phone, he instantly realizes that the gaming industry is the one he should indulge in, which he failed. Moreover, his one mistake of investing his capital without experience led him to be so poor. Richie tells him the decision. Richie does not worry regarding as the accident. The Northerner calls his company a very funny name, but he doesn't know because he wants the company to flop, finally mentioning. He starts in to write about me, the punishment of which is immediate termination of my employment will be faced according to him if I disclose the information about the process to anybody. Richie wished him all the best and tell him the cooperation would be harder than anything he had imagined. The 14-day timer appears. Pei, a non-techie, rushes among his expanding groups of friends in silence. He tries to come up with a game, but he fails to find a satisfactory answer over and over again. Then Dorm Pei outs it as a challenge whether or not it is possible to make the game in just 2 weeks. And Yang answers by saying that it is in fact very easy, but he needs a counselor to help him put everything together. A fully equipped platform with templates and tools that can let someone who does not know how to code to design a game. There, we see Pei scan the platform in the library, finally considering it's not the best, but definitely to fit his need just for creating. What playing a bad game would cost him? That is $20,000 on a driving simulator template, which took $15,000 for. Hero character, playground assets, and some basic gameplay features, he reckons up in seeing that all the money is gone. And how he got all his money out of his coat pocket in such a manner of thought. There, it is like, and he equally decides to make a wretched game. To him, he is the game maker, the designer who will call the shots. Losing the story plot of the movie, assuming the players will be fed up with the duration of the game, he indicates it is very cool, naming the game The Lonely. Desert Road, and then he says he wants to sell it for $1, but this way he can be sure he will not have any company. Sees nobody is interested and is elated at the prospect of making a commission. The neighbors enter the room blaring a popular song, but on hearing that he wasn't able to sleep, Pei snubs the invitation of moving them to play. Yesterday, his roommate started the game with a neighbor and they both realized that game is the first time for them and they were all noobs. Falls down with the game on, they play more further. Ja rests on Yang's bed as he pondered if they annoyed him with no other sign. Shows him being happy with the present. However, soon he began to earn money. He bought the games he liked, but soon enough he sensed it was too little to be content. Couldn't play them that much because he was usually busy with helping them, but he clearly saw that everything was about to change. Since his competitive advantage here is to simply make someone else lose the money to get the profit. He will never have to work ever again, therefore live the life he has been dreaming of. Now that what we've dreamt of, we have met the content creator Chow, and it turns out he excels in reviewing games that are poorly made. PROADCAST. But he can't rather earn as no sponsorship has been secured. He scans through the sports column in search of the game to write about. Next one, he finds a lonely desert road with nobody. He reads through the introductory paragraph, which stresses the fact that the learning process game is built around. He thinks about his life and finds the similarities, so he takes a chance and play it, and he's shocked to find in the end that it has simulated his life. Question whatsoever, he starts driving in the desert, but immediately he can focus, so that he becomes distracted. Instead of finishing the race, he crashes, which in turn gives him a loss for the match. Then, he utilizes his controller and afterward spends several hours working to finish it. While in that state, he gets sleepy again. He tries to shut off the game, but he realizes there's no way to pause and crashes again. Making him angry, he is set in getting to the end of the action, believing he's in a game, and his skill level is being tested. He then makes an effort with all his heart to play too, which, however, he fails to clear the obstacle, and he feels angry all of a sudden. Quitting was where he was going, but then a notification brings to his mind that something will be waiting for him at the end line, and so he's now curious about it. He puts on his boots and picks up the vinyl album, which is more than 20 years old. And he continues playing for hours as he starts reflecting on his life and thinking about what he has actually done. Enlightenment. He finally battles till the end, only to be told off by the game for wasting 8 hours of his life. So he explodes in anger, shouting it for live his life. What makes Richie's scheme so successful is not so much the money he pays as the data he shows him. And telling him that he's left with 11 days till the next due date, he thinks he is about to get rich because nobody cares about the issue. He decides to download the game, but this moment he hears that it is very popular, so he rushes to play it before nobody. When he comes back home, looking for the same reason why people purchased it, and he turns on his laptop, finding that the thing he was asked to sell had already become a hit. Number 1, because Chow uploaded it on his website. View his video when he encourages the others to not play themselves. Desert Road, which I considered the most boring game ever made for a waste of time award. But this made the game popular among them, so the people bought the game Yang suggested, saying the game should be played who want to change the old. He persists in making this attempt, but he refuses, and he says that the condition is good because he wishes to make that game unsuccessful and therefore he is altering it. There is a long explanation of why the players should feel entitled to get a refund, but then they tell him that the process is not easy. So he decides to instruct him to keep the money. Then, after a few days, we knew Yang is playing the game, but he doubted about something. How the meme was created, calling it terrible, but people can't stop playing it and making references that my film wasn't made to be a meme. Performed, and all he could think of was that he would receive less after that. We cut to a man, who was known as Lee, the proprietor of the big gaming company. However, his assistant reminds him that this clearing is only a desert road without a name. The product is succeeding well among young people, but she claims that it is only 19.8% cheaper than the other brands. According to her, they are not priced worth buying. Profit, and he is still okay with that because his goal is to beat his competition in the industry and monopolize it. He gives her the sack for disagreeing with him. Paige checks the internet in a growing desire to know how to failed. Unfortunately, he is leave without any answers. Address this because the people will show no interest on the issue when at the time for closing date is as they may want to rush. He finds out that his game brings in 70,000 yuan, and he walks away with 700 yuan after exchange rates are done. Richie. The narrator will say, "Well done for making it a success." Then he will thank him for creating this game, but still he wasn't satisfied as he wanted more money. Richie hints him that he is going to get 300,000 of yuan for the second round, basically telling him 30 days before the deadline. Date of the next competition. But here are the questions. He has yet to specify how exactly he can use it because it is good only for entering a business startup. Tae Yang is a little clueless about the fact that he is in a jockish mood and hence invites him to play a game. Yang's prospect is that he can go along with Feldman and say their roommates to let go of hating him, or otherwise they will kick him out. Although the neighborhood is somewhat upbeat, he loses anyway because one more reason Yang is a terrible player, and everyone blames him. He sees this as an outcome. Yang is a burden, and he regrets not doing his job properly, so if there is nothing left but him crying. Then a full flash of inspiration passing by, the goal of the night becomes clear to him, almost obvious that Yang could be thinking of him as well. He's the linchpin of his bold spending spree. Upon waking up, the door's guard pulled a gun on him, but he saw a gun. Therefore, he panicked, and a witness came that he was using pay to alert him. Everybody throughout the building the next day does what Yang had asked, so he becomes angry and demanding, increasingly impatient. He says that he wants to find Yang, but not everyone understands this. So instead of running away, Pace pushes his chest and makes him stand on stone. As he pleads with him to let him be the one to design this game, but which Yang firmly opposes as they are most probably going to fail, and he is just about to walk away. Though the actual amount of money he makes from selling his line of watches would have been 300,000 yuan, since he's the designer of it. Oddball of Lonely Desert Road again, Yang was called genius subconsciously, and he agreed to work with him. In a comment like that saying he will look for books dealing with the topic in the library, we are assured that Yang already bought some books on programming and pays attention to such theme. He congratulates himself that he must not be that practical because he is bound to fail. Pay is a cue that inspires him to think of another idea instead of coding, since the internet site that they use may be doing the job well. So Yang is confused about what he should do with the books. He's like reading them to some other effect, but he nods off immediately. Later on he laughs at this, adding that there was finally some sleep for the pupil to plan. Today, when the entire day he will have a game in the office, the man recalls how he should do his job, being aware that his company is successful because of certain games. Driving game and also other games, so he should brainstorm about something new because the people will download the game among the several options they have. If he drives that Lonely Desert Road and blows all his money to build a bigger game so as to lose his first production issues, would that be it? However, Richie warns him that he will incur a penalty for the foul, and so he eventually makes a choice against it. He realizes that mobile players aren't familiar. Alice is Amar's partner, and they will make the mobile game together. He has learned that card games is widespread. Familiar, but most of them just come to the deathbed because they are trying to make another version of the Three Kingdoms instead of developing their own names. It is an original one, but not so sure. So he decides to create the most worthless card game in the world, proposing to Yang that they shall go hiring. The proposed artist to assist them with the design, Yang points out that there's a different way, but Robert is resolute and prefers his process. All of his money. Therefore he says he is going to spend all his financial resources to develop a card game of the best quality. They may very well have eaten out at a restaurant. When he asked Yang to retell the story, he starts to feel anxious, being scared that this would be going to ruin the whole game. But Pei assures him they are not afraid to innovate, and hence, he has the mission to let go. His imagination runs wild. For him, it would be more like taking the main characters and making them into crazy people, and then Pei calls him brilliant. Finally decides to hire Yang and tells him that he'll be paid 300 yuan monthly, which makes the last yin-yang very delighted. Lee's temporary replacement suggests that Three Kingdoms is finding its player base decreasing due to the game is too tough to secure rare item. Means that the game will not become addictive if they change this in the next sentence. Game alone is losing popularity nowadays, so that they don't. Instead, they should just forget about it. Lee's assistant corroborates this, and he also adds that they will soon be copying their competition as well. 3. Kingdom's saying that there is no originality about mention, but this is not the case, since Lee is the one who picked the category. The thought himself dismissed with a possible slight on his creativity, he terminates his assistant on the spot. Then I realized it was he who helped me when I was in trouble. Despite Yang being brave enough, Yang is laughed at because his game might be foolish. He glances at the laptop. He wonders if he may find a beginner or not. For example, there might be such an artist who make up ugly designs and he looks interesting, think that he is going to help him failing the next day. Yang casted her dart saying, "Why not girls?" But Pei didn't agree with her notion that the characters of the game should be of women. He won over the audience, so he decided not to spoil the originality of the main characters, and Yang was convinced afterwards. Ming Chen says that Yang is an idiot, that the characters are boarding a ship, and that the thing they have to mull over is the concept design. So he implies hiring a superstar now, but at present time some other people will be given the position he is after. He believes that Pei. However, the MC wants to be in the spotlight, but assumes that the producer wants him to get some shine, hence he states, "But before you specialize, simplify, so we ain't trying to steal the spotlight, but you want me to shine. Prioritize gameplay over design." He gives a proposal to create the drawing, but it was Pei who was persistent not to do that because he wants to save their effort. They have a fierce rift, but the boat is now tilted, and it falls onto water, it capsizes as they internalize that their guide is a drowning man. Therefore, they make a binding decision to rescue him, but he gives them a thumb up telling them to go away, and they walk away regretting what they did. Happened the person he became acquainted with shared his love for a manga artist in the community, and so on one of their encounters, they paid a visit to an exhibit. Pei convinces Yang that a quick chat with him will make decision of whether he should hire him or not easier, saying it will be a great feature of the game that will make it look amazing and different. Yang asks for. He provides his contact details, and the movie name is Pei Details. They solicit a schedule in which they will meet with him during the video call. Yang tells YJ that the two of them plan to do it by enlisting Pei's help to create all 50 characters in the game, said to be. You know, it is all right for the artist to express himself, but do not want him to draw chibis. He asks himself whether the reason they want to hire him is the right one. The first reason Pei attracts Satis' attention is that he works with chibis, particularly their faces, so when he conveys this information to Pei, he gives it a chance. This is the price that he quotes per painter to be 2,000 yuan. Yang becomes upset. Annotatively, he thinks the price is too highly priced, hence, Pei tells him the price is too low, saying they have a budget of $3,500. Yuan also amazed to hear it can't be more than enough, which shocks. He has his unique art style. He is on her side now and will fight the current situation to its very roots, that is to include the amendment. Such expenses, and Jin agrees to it as Richie backs off thinking the charge was minor. However, later on, we are made to understand the reality is different. He says he is not going to ask for amendments. He then explains to Jen that he has the power to change the style of the art because they are not limited by the style of any other people. Trust such a hero who tells him that he has only 14 days to finish this task soon after the meeting of Yang. For example, he doesn't like Jay because Jay has a bad attitude, but Pale tells him that Jay could be an introvert. The Pei became quiet and teased Yang to work on the art design while he could be responsible more for the gameplay. For sure they will be busy in the next few days. We know that he ordered Yang to keep track on JY because he wants the output product to be as ugliest as one can be, thinking the inventors care about appearance more than function. He has given a tough time to the investors. He just wants to make the players hate this game by fixing the least price as 10 yuan, which is to units. Besides the happening Three Kingdoms, he thinks about setting lifetime membership for drawing any number of times possible. Fearing that the players will get bored because his experience has taught him that they benefit from making progress by obtaining rare cards. Hooks Googles for the worst template he can find, and it turns out to be from a company that tried to replicate the industry one. The Three Kingdoms, he tells himself that it is a stupid game that nobody will want to play, so he makes up his mind to buy it as a present to his girlfriend, Jen. Hence, when he and the team come together, he tells them about the job, but the team question it, saying that the game is going to be flawed as its graphics are poor. The characterization seems strange to me. Although they might have such thoughts still, they are most likely to stick to their project and prove that the job is not a fraud. Jin says that the client has already made the deposit, and he mentions that they, as the artists, thrive in freedom. Given that is their time to make statements, because of this, everyone is going to push their best. He suggests doing what he has done all along, that is sticking to the style he invented, because he believes that is what is going to make the characters stand out. They inform him that it is not. They don't like it, so he tells them that he will do the basic design and they can add the decorating elements to it. For example, they discuss that they just need to have the best result they can get, and they start working on the task, generating ideas. On the other hand, everyone they have for the job and contribute different parts in time. We go back to our dorms as Yang discovers that JY has recapitulated the events of our first 2 years of study. And there, it has already been finished. The designs claim from him the money if he wants to get it, but he does not care. Order to put it into the Yang. Game in which they call this project is the only question that now puzzles Dick if he is not upset by this. Should give it this name Phantom General, and he heads to the market in the morning. Paolini believes that Yen didn't find any bugs in the game, and meanwhile Yang wondered if she should release it. But finally it was the launch date, and so Pei asked her to do it. Yang replied as Pei launched it. The advertisement must convey a message that the game is just an ordinary card game. Yang wants to think that he is successfully doing so, but actually, this is a futile attempt. Compassion, and he just wants that money to go to the expensive marketing campaigns in order to earn even more. It is Yang who gets bullied from his roommates when they get beaten for the third time, and they attributed it to him. After that, they called him useless and suddenly go away. Moving him aside and the questioning him as to why his game concept was so deep and detailed, Pei was accusing him of stealing the game idea off the top of his head. Jin was not impressed with the designs and does not want copies, but instructs Pei to the lesson that hereafter she will complete everyone's work. A terrible artist, Yang is content with the dimensions, but Pei gets angry about those figures. Yang might not look like he's complaining about a good show. Rather, he's because she did a great role. He says that it's because he pays more for other men's wife, but we begin to understand that he needed the ugly one for a greater reason. Patterns, so that his game would be at fault, feeling misplaced. He asks himself if he is the reason Yang chose to separate from him, and then confesses his regret. Casting Jin means that he feels his brand is going to be successful because of the excellent game design, but he starts to think he is starting to see a drawback. Other flopping games, where the games also look good as what is, but asks himself if his game also flop later. On that day, maybe Yang tells Pei that their game had 100 downloads, but he suddenly realizes that all of those downloads were by users who left poor reviews. Pei can't believe this. He thinks the game will fall short of its expectations, but Yang thinks there are professional trolls hired to that end. He helps at them paper as if it were painfully teasing him, but grinning and secretly thankful to the trolls he can't help from thinking what he could answer to. You react through your comments, but pay if you forget it immediately because they are too many, and to Yang, he is a good man when he is the only one who can keep his cool regarding the situation he's thrown in. Along the lone desert highway, we witness Yang played by the artist having a dialogue with Jen, the creator's reflection, that whether they have problems with their diet, mental health, or even hearing or vision. Design in his comment, he tells Jin to think how great he managed, and they begin discussing about the game when Ji's friends come close. They said they were extremely satisfied with seeing such a big-hearted person because they were paid for much more than required. He checks the score. While they are filling up their shopping cart, surprisingly, he observes the poor performance and asks himself why they don't see any ads. Then he understands that it was preceding and was not the one which implanted the memory. Alien, the same one who designed the mysterious road in the desert, making him worried for his life, as well as his friends, who are thunderstruck because everyone but him witnessed this road in the desert. If people would care about giving a chance, they might ask why no trials were conducted for Phantom General, thus thinking that there was no need of testing. Appeals that the person is not sure where it wants to go, and Jin agrees to dance, thus she initiates her chain of stops in the metro. Mark says that it features a standard model, and he adds that it offers nothing new. Thinking especially about his own creation, he is confused. Thinking this is what makes the game differ from the others, he solidified that special effects were added. He has proved right as the whole way people are viewing his artworks, and they are very glad that they also look as desired. It is possible to acquire the unique cards, and thus he gets his exclusive baseball cards, which had brought him the joy of collecting. Playing, he saw something strange, and so he called his friend, Yang, and asked him why people died only from the illness started a few months. The very first time I came across a thrift store, what I saw was a single rack of clothes, and the membership fee was exactly the same as the shoe I just bought. He keeps asking himself if he could expect new goods to appear. Judging by her tone, she implies that Pay Beauty was an indie game. Yang tells her it wasn't, since the game is corporate-owned and Pay wants the players to enjoy it. To JY, his explanation sounds peculiar. That kind of mentality that the company cannot be profitable because the thing they are making only costs can charge, and who grants you the determination. But Yang goes with that to say that economics stand in the way of supporting the cause, not providing profit. Engine thinks it's a worthy endeavor since it will not be about profiting. Yang starts, weeping, for I can tell her that Pay has lost all money on the game. Because he broke up with Nicole after the promotion, he came to the conclusion that I was the reason for all these. He is showing different behavior in recent times, hence Jin intends to help and hangs up, but it seems that Yang was just feigning. When Jin is sad, he makes a trip to his team's office, and they all share a laugh when they discover that paying shift workers doesn't come first to the company. I want to say that I believe he's terrific because he just doesn't match any of the other game creators, as they solely think about how to earn money. Well, he always decides to help. You return him, who is sure to lose his game before the time is up. He stands in a circle of nodding rams to think that his game is finished. Yet, he realizes that only 300,000 yuan stands in front of him, whereas Yang actually hugs him, telling him that the video became the next day's sensation after posting it on the internet. He is stunned by the information, thinking about how the players, who are being broadcasted, learn such a thing. The game, as he didn't involve in the advertising or marketing, he grabs his phone and he discovers that the game already have a lot of games for players. He's puzzled by the situation, and he wonders why the product achieved great success based on the good reviews that it received. He realizes, thankfully, that the customers like the design and ideas introduced by him. Well, he kind of chooses between to call up Jin, then requesting if he had played the game online. We learn that Jin was ashamed sufficiently to disseminate it. The designers who thought his designs are great, so he's excited to have his work be picked by the specialists, but he hopes it will be long-term. To help out with this one, he takes the route of advertising his game by asking his friends, I wonder why he needs and he hates the socializing of most people to gain for free. By saying that he will definitely win it because he is the best, Jin immediately pushes his teammates to come up with counterattacks. Who discovers that it was, in fact, created by a kind brand, so they become dedicated customers, expressing their appreciation by leaving it good reviews and making purchases. Hence, it is no surprise that youth culture evolves rapidly, leading it to spread like wildfire. Pei didn't receive any material benefits from this, but he reasoned that he had a duty to report accurate facts for the sake of the Palladio. He is all stick to grow up. He becomes sad, acknowledging that the low pay made it difficult to bear, then he thanked her sincerely. Nevertheless, Jin has found peace in the believer herself for the success of Pei's game, whereas Yang has started to make an analysis of the problem. To build his public image, we show him being targeted in negative reviews on the internet, wondering who hired the internet trolls. We quickly cut to Lee when he is busy with his new job. Assistant gives him an answer that the general of the flying army is already on his way to surpass the kingdoms, which is he we have talked about before. Who ordered the internet trolls, and how can we say he imitates ancient three kingdoms otherwise than for this purpose? He's better than Lee. He thinks he is being hunted, so the need for Project Corpus is born, placing its acquisition on top of his agenda. Proceed with their plan. In the restroom, he identifies himself as Pei, making signs that no one observes him, and then calls a customer. A human voice of a game service guidance telling the player that he wants his game to be removed from the recommended list. She explains that this game is not quite suitable for younger players. If Richie comes up with the oddest message you ever got, saying she needs to talk to her superiors, just say, Richie strangely suggests that. That's the moment which he decides to end the call, making a mistake and breaking the rules. The salary grows gray and a screen suddenly displays. Then, a golden raven flies swiftly away to the left side of the screen. Grounded as he realizes that the date is here, the end is near. Richie appears in it, after which in his mind, Pei adds up numbers, just to figure out that his net profit was more than $500,000 and therefore falls into despair. Richie also asks him why the game is profitable compared to the attempt to make it fail, and Danny replies he'll receive 5,000 U. As people use both currencies in their transactions, Richie will tell his boss that it will take roughly 90 days to finish, and he begins to think. What was done to his games to make them so profitable? He started to realize that he didn't lose money because he was just ineffective. He much hates Richie by adding in the money needed to start again. Richie tells him that he already has enough for the next round. We won't raise it this round. Instant letter Richie tell him that his games continue to make money and he has an additional 1,000 yuan. I come back. When Lee says that his attention has been usurped by pay, he's ready to pay his firm all the money. Acquire it. Money is his goal when he unintentionally picks up the phone and Yang calls to him, telling him that Lee needs his help. His company makes him very brave and he is always happy thinking about this job offer, but he is warned that this is risky since he isn't. Even though he has a right to sell his enterprise, that's why he has to refuse it. Yet Yang reveals that Lee is ready to provide huge money. Of Yuan bidding to purchase their company, the emotion that shakes Yuan is a devastated feeling, but he advises Yang again not to accept it. Lee offers to invest. In fact, when they go out together, she even notices that he doesn't drink, but then Pei shows her that he doesn't need it at all, as he has plenty of money and is rich. Lee rejects Pei's suggestion to invest in his company. However, because the latter found this out, Lee gets upset, seeing in Pei an attempt stealing the idea. To humiliate him, Pei transforms into a figure of rivalry for him while the two over the dinner as Yang keeps thinking of the why. The computer will not allow him to work as long as he is not in the mood, and thus his activity is ultimately not profitable. He is not interested in it, but we notice that it's because Gam's income reaches 6 million yuan. He is worried that he may squander away the entire fund in the next 3 months. Yang insists he is going to pay her. He answers the phone, and the waitress arrives, and Pei feels that Y is more prosperous than he. Is faced with shock when he discovers the credit card bill is too much, so he asks Pei if he'll reimburse him. Besides that, he has an inspiration, so he asks Yang to stay there, and he leaves the restaurant and gives Richie a call, wondering whether he is free or not. He is able to attach the dinner as a team-building activity for the company, and he advises him that he can money-wise. It wouldn't be a problem. On the one side, that is his concern, and on the other, that he hopes for the same treatment for his, uses Richie as an example. It's prohibited. He comes back to Yang and says that he will be paying for their meals, and then they watch the news where a presenter appears. It has been unveiled by the organization that an inventions of unified system has been developed. Technological development is proceeding rapidly, and that is why. While they may make a more complex game in the future, currently they can't do this because of the lack of knowledge. As for us, gives him an idea to increase the number of workers, and his excitement gradually grows up, thinking it will chase the money away from him. Pay for them. He concedes that the know-how of company management eludes him, so they conclude the assistant is worth recruiting. On the other hand, Yang says he will be headhunting in an agency for a potential new recruit, and he hopes that their train of thought will be the same as that of the agency. And consequently, the big company is named Fiery Sky Studio, and Joe is its producer after that. Performance of the employees, he notices that a person named Lin is going to be discharged from the job, but he rings a subordinate, assuring her that he can make the decision better now. And then Lin enters and she says him that she wants to meet Alex. Gave up the job because it worried her. Why was she doing it? She explains that her first fantasy is to come true and she feels that is not the right place for her. But she thanks him for his care for her. When she gets up, he calls his client and tells him he just finished the job, and he tells his client that there will never be any more of her. To put it simply, we visualize the journey of Pei and Yang being headhunters and then meeting a grayish man called Lawrence who says it's going to be a long journey. Wants to offer his services to someone, but he thinks it is not that person who is worth his time. So he rejects his offer, explaining that he asks for a large amount of money and providing an appropriate justification. The indication that he is willing to give his personal assistance for $100,000 per year makes Lawrence believe that she is currently in the company of millionaires. Hence decides to entertain them. Starts asking for the details, and Pei announces that he is looking for a secretary and she should be a woman. Moreover, he wants her to help him with the trivial, mundane tasks. He likes to have beautiful woman decor takes his mood daylight. Lawrence hands him an email-like thing for this Lulu girl. Yang reminds the interviewer that she has an excellent career record, but she prioritizes being offered the job most. Lawrence doesn't want to womanize, but men will be the boss, but he thinks women will agree to work for money. He's not the same as any of her previous bosses. It doesn't take him long to start employing her. They are in a rush to leave the building when Pei notes Lin, who has just turned to news about Phantom, but she says with emphasis that the game is about to start. Is then thrown out and she starts saying that it was conceived solely for the benefit of others and not for profit. Here's the mention by him that is a game. It's okay, and that the design is not good, but she tells him off for not knowing what he is talking about. If Peter doesn't come to the store, Lawrence asks Lynn if she is looking for a job, so she says that it's what she has in mind. That the company produced the General Phantominator. He instructs her that the boss of the company is called Pay, so Fry immediately obeys. After this, however, it is clear that she cannot gain that title now, and she sees that she just passed through her gate to get the job of her dreams. Cash is standing at the counter of a restaurant, and Lulu walks up to him for the interview, so he says that she would be having a seat. She reveals. He had previously indicated that he had fashioned designing as a hobby rather than working for a company. The fact remained that Lawrence must have surprised her with that piece of information. Given his demeanor, startup that is sure he is a knowledgeable young guy, the lady has the same opinion that she's the perfect candidate for the position, and she tries to persuade. As he closes with describing her skills, he inquires him if he has any doubts, and he understands that he is actually the one being interviewed. Her high grade reflects her skills that seem to be what he was looking for, hence she's being hired anyway. Basically letting her know not to offer advice whenever he does not ask for it. She readily consents to conditions. Calls to start, but he works urgent. However, less than expected, Biden tells her that he does not have the cabinet yet, and she catches hers by surprise, so they both move to Independence Hall, or a tower, where they are familiarized with it and informed that they could rent out the rooms and make money out of it. Office? She wanted to know whether Pay was making the biggest investment or considering rent. Developing in the city, a fact that I have since confirmed, so he tells the landlord that he wants to lease the entire floor, whereafter the one is to call him. Is happy for that because admits he is a kind-hearted person. Unexpectedly, Lulu enlightens that the plot of land is roughly 3,000 square meters and the budget for construction is around $0.5 million. The rent for this place is RMB 3,600,000, but the man finds out that he can pay it by the payments in half year. May rent the whole floor for him if he rents it so that he can get it for a cheaper price, saying he won't find another deal in the city while Bruce thinks he could. It's too cheap. And his being surprised shows that life has its troubles, but Pay tells him not to get discouraged. His price to appease his clients, we found out that Pay was distracted by the Phantom General because it was still there. Trotting like a horse, therefore he is eager to get rid of as much money as possible the guy has. Tells him to write the contract with regard to the expenses of first month spent, finding his move as a lack of profitability. Soon, Lulu emphasizes to Pay that the management of rented is finished already, therefore they need to buy it. She goes through the list of set of office supplies with him, but he suggests that they need to curtail the purchase. Working environment for the team, pointing out the products is of very low quality. She asks him what about their budget. He replies. He gives him to million as his price limit, but Richie cautions him against breaking the rules. Thus he moderates it to 800,000 yuan. On the contrary, Lulu thinks she could have had an even better one, and she says they should buy the best office supplies available, because his motto is to start things good. More than that, they expect to deliver the best, but she inquires about the office he is in, so he lets her know. She doesn't hesitate, and she decides to even rent a room, handing the key card over to him. He begins to grasp that this is no. Come up with this option that Michael cannot leave the dorm room if he works overtime, and Richie thinks it is fair, so he gradually begins to feel at home in his room. Lulu tours him the recruitment plan, but he is over strict, suggests to her that it is a bad idea to stick to a plan so as to grow the startup from even a smaller enterprise to a huge one. Make it worse, since due to his good thinking he has the tendency to ban the representatives of the humankind that are hardest to work with, but she tries to persuade him to not do it. As he tried to convince officials that his idea would work, he found that he could not hire people who couldn't make games, and he recognized that he was violating the rules. If the staff cannot do it, he says that he'd be going to hire those developers himself. She warns her. Through changing the fashion of his clothes and then asking her if it is possible for him to make a claim to get his clothes back, she describes him this. Sir, I will ask my boss to be allowed to wear a suit that should be tailored to business meetings, so that I can buy the best quality clothes I can afford. He arms himself with the delusional thought that he's making better hits all the while he's destroying the cash at such a high pace. He decides to hire. He questions his existence and talks that his newfound competence is a curse to him because he is no longer mediocre like everyone else. He goes to a shop that has computers. that of the person who calls Bell a child hunter, we learn that he is a student of the gaming school, which is the cause of his expulsion from the previous one. Human faces have several features which are helpful for recognizing them. On the one hand, small and more details create difficulties of face recognition. When there is no time for considering the faces of all people one by one, the face can be identified by means of their features. Some considered facial features are eyes, nose, lips, chin. And of course, hair model. I had a different reaction to the documentary. I also wanted to hire him, but one guy said he was a con artist. Then that person told my friend to get off my property. Money offers the employee to have the advanced salary as money to set fire his curiosity as well. Pay says to him that they work hard and end up leading their lives poorly. B obtaining a computer in his company, C says that he can play there at the free time, while B replies that he also doesn't know how to do it. Pay's begin to program game, as Pay trusts in B's gaming experience. I went up to him and asked if he wanted to co-cure it. Most like sports meat. B says yes to him and gives the word to report himself within 2 days. He, in turn, is extremely happy because of this. Since childhood, I've had a dream to be a game developer. Then, Pay see a man-harm the following day. Is rehearsing about his interview, so Pay just walks up to him, asks if he applies to the company. Pay pretends. I that he's actually one of the applicants, asking him to tell him that he's already late for the interview, so he reveals that he's at the moment with his current job. Shrugged and thought to himself that he would look for another job at lunchtime. As he was not happy with what he was doing now, the entrance opens and along he meets. The man in charge, Lou, would rather not bother, as his company is quite picky. Lesby, along with another person, step into the elevator carrying their pay. They start talking about Lou, after which B informs them that he's the primary game designer. The man who thinks he has put down the amazing things that he has found out about himself, and that as they reach to the office he might not get the job. Bell becomes astonished when receives his salary, and he starts interrogating P. By the way, he is the head of the company and president. Firm, B. Bob says that Bob is they want and says how much he expects in comparison to salary expectations. Doesn't make me rich, but to 1,000 yuan says it's enough. Pay might remind me that my cost of living is not a luxury. It is Edgar's duty to explain that. In his opinion, $2,000 is not enough to cover his expenses, which would be a rather objectionable task. The manager even if promises to double the amount. He is happy to hear this and he tells him that he will give everything by soldering. On the same day, Lulu talks to him, mentioning that she told a girl that she wanted to see him. And a whole new layer of motivation appears, and it hurts me when she asks him if he's only after money. But he refutes this, so his quest for perfection is what makes him more appealing. Thinking that he is doing this for business, we feel the passage, and he inquires Lulu about her. So she gives us the gospel truth that she was the lousy employee to whom he is last holder of her job. This is the reason why he accepts Dina back in the dorm. MP's floor mates will probably ask him about his whereabouts. He has not been seen for some days now. They call out for Yang's return, and Yang raises a hand in busyness, which means he is working, undoubtedly. Without even having rented a place, we can see Hang who is working for his mother, but he is clueless about what they are doing. Another benefit is that they are earning a living while doing what they enjoy, playing the games. That brings about everyone else's doubt about why Pei is doing what she is. Who wants his product to be useful and offer an insight into the games for children as a means of learning? For a moment, Ba has, which is clear that Long sees Ba has. What happens so that the game they are playing is a maximum of the level? The operator of all this whom Pei will, in his opinion, make them that. Thinks that it's better for them to feel guilty than working harder when the next task comes up, since they will receive help. Everyone wonders where Pei. For this reason, you do not meet him in the office, and it feels like he comes to your home and sits next to you on the couch, which makes you aware that he will not be leaving you soon and your lives are connected. The harder it was for Chesterfield to manage his subordinates. He thinks he might have made a mistake and that his next game deck will not make it, but then he sees an action movie. He comes with the notion that everywhere, the bell rang, and everyone was he ordered back home. However, they don't understand why they weren't at work. With everything he has got, he is in the attic. Everything is that they can afford are up there. We've been away from London for a while. Is Mr. Pei saying he had been away. Therefore, he has been thinking about the company's future and, consequently, he informs everyone that they all would work on it. It may be seen as an underdog compared to other first-person shooter games, which are already leading in the gaming market. Everyone starts to have their doubts. Precisely, but he explains that he chose them as the members of his team because he only settled for the amateurs. Reckons in their creativeness. He tells them that they are future of gaming. He says that their imagination is a hidden treasure. as a thoroughly diligent toiler and a game's master whom is second to none at his gaming skills. A guy called Kennedy that thinks his team can't lose and tells you that they are working on an awesome game and asks that you do be a part of it. The first instructions which Bal will be given will point at leaving everything to him and at subsequently drooping their heads in the meeting room. Where you Bal can be difficult and has to have tutorials telling the game must have a friendly control and the player is only. The story should be lengthy. He points out that the weapons shouldn't only look cool, which will help players to afford them. And right then, he still thinks that his requests are meaningless, but that players will be upset if they don't realize that. The controls aren't functional, and the story is going to be dull if they don't make it short. He adds that there. The corporation's image will be at stake since they began a no-in-game purchases trend, but they are not ready alone. Put forward the idea by just listing the guns for sale. Conman is right, but yet again Pei-Hang says, "You gotta believe in yourself. Overcome the problems, Pei appoints Hang as lead designer and be his game moderator and requires that they have the first draft of game design done. With the draft to be completed within the week after the meet-up, Pei rejoices, thinking that this game is all going to be a failure, as he mentions. So he leaves the office and catches Be playing and then bidding him farewell in Old English, which is his departure. But he promised not to tell anyone for the guarantee of Hain in secret, so he wants to do his best. Due to the management, therefore, he works overtime, which is against his will. They deliberate on where and how to distribute the project to be. It's said about Pei as being the one to do the job requiring the least resources and thinking that same must be done by his followers. This example shows spending money on just playing, and the critical features go into Imagination B. Here he tells that the game will begin in the ocean, where the players will discover an abandoned derrick on the oil platform. Here Hang asks him about the enemies. At that time, however, a mummy suddenly attacks them, but the creeper saves him and the mummy falls off the platform. The least number of mummies you see in the exhibit are a Bihu. Talks about that their model is simple because they are wrapped. In bandages, S marks one of them down by the fire, thus making the surrounding bullets to burn away, though they smell the trouble. He begins their exodus as they reveal that we do not need the complication the control system, because the machines can just simply do the mummification. More vulnerable to be shot, but he does not have enough bullets, so they turn back. To have climbed up by the ladder, and they eventually reach the top. Whilst in the game, they can seek shelter where they would discuss about story mode. He realizes that he should not only introduce a pivotal secondary character, but also a girl. You get here through an imaginary path, so Hang starts conversing with her but B answers from her principles of communication, which reveal that she can't speak. Fashioning a speaking character is an extravagance. He points out that their movements will be the ones that'll give the quests, so she has to be prepared and ready. Gives Han the opportunity to go around a corner where he meets a mummy and he runs away, so in order for him to survive, he destroys the mummies too. Space, thus proving him not a coward, but man who is capable of protecting himself. B arrives through a helicopter, and she will guide them to how to leave safely. Besides, without this bond between the players and their actions, these people will not be able to identify themselves with. The personages carry the real same day when H called me a genius. He believes the girls are much smarter than him because they are keeping the conversation away from the game, and instead are talking about what they are going to later. While creating the show, she not only alludes to B's opinion, but also reveals her bias, believing he is the most wonderful guy. They wonder what. The guy was referring guns that are cool and the kids have heard. That he says them, meaning they are to have them add a legendary weapon to the game. They continue working all night, she says, and the following day Hank sends a message to Bell saying they will appear on stage and he will give it his best to make it wonderful. Something perfect, I could say, but then Yang pops up there, wrapping arms around Bell. I need to conclude with confusion. Thus, in this case, we discover that Hong failed, but it is here that this video stops.